Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the first of 3 Blethers Wi Heather. Here we're live in my house with a real Scots language celebrity. It is for Scots Word of the Day fame, Len Pennie. Hi, Len.
Hello.
How's it
going?
Oh, it's going really well. How are you?
I'm alright.
No, very, very welcome to my humble abode.
Thank you.
This evening we're chatting about the Scots Language Awards. The reason me and Len are doing this evening together is because we are going to be co-hosts of the awards. They are on the 25th of September and they're right here in sunny Dundee. You can go and get your tickets now on the website, which is on your screens. That's scotslanguageawards.com. Your tickets are just about a tenner, from $9.50 to $11.50. We're going to be there. We will be there. All the nominees for all the awards have all been invited, so most of them will be there. So it'll be a real wha's wha for the Scots language scene. There'll be writers, there'll be performers, there'll be creatives. It'll be a belter of a night along at the Gardyne Theatre. And they do a few of us about out for a bevy after, so you can come and join us for some fun. We'll certainly be about it. It'll be great to see you there. If you absolutely canny, make your way to Dundee on the 25th of September, then you can join us online. Wherever you're watching this, they can tune in. If you're watching it on Len's Twitter, if you're watching it on my own Facebook, whatever you're tuning in, you can join us again. But most of your information is for the Hands Up for Trad social media pages. So give them a follow. Len,
yes.
Loads of stuff to chat about, eh?
We do. We have so much.
Where should we start?
It's up to you.
Ah,
it's your show.
Well, what I'm really interested in, we're going to talk a bit about the different categories and the different nominees and all that kind of stuff. Something that really stands out, obviously, for the COVID year, is that most of the stuff that's on there is stuff that's a lot of the stuff that's on there is stuff that's been done online.
Absolutely.
So we'll be looking at some teachers that have been teaching online and what they've been doing to make sure that Scots stays part of their bairns' their lives and their education. But there's a fair few folk, yourself included, that rose to prominence through TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm dead old. I didn't care much about TikTok. You've picked out a couple of videos for TikTok, but how do you know, just first of all, tell us what it is, what it's good for, and can it be a good place for Scots to thrive?
So TikTok is a really good resource for Scots content because you can do really good short form content. Right. Usually when we think about Scots, think about things like long form poems or books and that, but you can have either a 15-second, a 60-second or a 3-minute video format. So like the Scots Word of the Day is only about 20 seconds or 30 seconds. So it's really good bite-sized Scots content, which means that people can digest it easily and they don't have to dedicate too much time to it.
Aye, so I was seeing that TikTok users in the UK went from like less than 10 million to near about 30 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yours tell me the demographics are awfully different on there or not?
Definitely.
Why are you speaking to it?
Well, for me personally, my demographics are mainly on TikTok, female and mainly Americans, so it's a whole new demographic. You'd think to yourself that the only people who'd be interested in Scots would be people from Scotland who have a sort of vested interest in using it in their daily life, but it's actually the opposite. The majority of my audience is American.
Incredible. What do they make it?
I think it's been great. It's been phenomenal to engage with people who have no prior preconceptions of Scots, but then also people who have had preconceptions for, Outlander or something like that, where they think it's just a funny English or, bad pronunciation or bad spelling. So it's been nice to be able to change perceptions in a way that's not too formal. It's a nice sort of conversational way that you can, engage with people, have a wee blether about Scots and just have a good time.
100%. It's the bait that reels them into the real
Absolutely.
Meaty stuff, eh? So you've picked out a couple of clips. Shall we have a look at them?
I have. I've got one for Littlest Chicken,
mm-hmm.
who is one of the nominees, and it just is a good example of sort of nice conversational, like everyday Scots that people will be familiar with. It's not so much the sort of historical stuff that I might be delving into in my videos, but it's a nice, it's a good reflection of the Scots that people will be familiar with.
100%. So here's a couple of clips for TikTok. We'll come back and talk about them after.
I don't know what's happened to me, but I'm looking at myself now and I'm thinking to myself, I'm Shaggy, by the way. God, you're a sexy bastard! Just to inform you all, this is now Littlest Chicken post-COVID glow-up era, by the way. Because I'd swear to God, man, you're a piece of toast, you are. This is a wee bit of the Bonnie Lass of Fivey because it's been stuck in my head all day. Here we go. There once was a troop o' Irish dragoons came marching down through Fivey, oh, and the captain's fallen in love with a very bonny lass, and her name it was cried Pretty Peggy, oh. Oh, there's many a bonny lass in the How lass, there's many a bonny lass in the Gaiety, oh, and there's many a bonny Jine in the streets of Aberdeen, but the floor o' them all bites in Fivey, oh. Happy Friday.
Oh, that's smashing. That's absolutely smashing. That's Littlest Chicken. He's up for any of the awards. Is it Scots Speaker of the Year? Scots Performer of the Year?
Scots Performer.
Scots Performer of the Year. Absolutely unreal. I should have said at the start there that, of course, you can fire it into the comments. I can see some of you already have. Gary Robertson. First of all, Gary, how you doing, man? Long time no see. Hope you're well. Devastating news just in for Gary, who, of course, won an award at the last Scots Language Awards down in Glasgow. The last team, not the game before the last team, when we all met in person for the last time.
I wasn't there.
Oh, you were barely born.
I wasn't invited. So.
But Gary's just telling us he's got a gig with the Cundies that night. Absolute hyper scunner, Gary. No bother, we'll catch up soon anyway. But stick your comment in the comments below the video. We can see them on the screen in front of us. We're keen. We're going to be talking about what got us most interest, what helped us fall in love with Scots. Instead of just speaking it, what helped you fall in love with it and realise it's poor? So we're talking about maybe teachers that had an impact on you, a book you came across. We're going to look at some of the Scots Bairns books that are going to be engaging this whole new generation with Scots. So let us know in the comments, what was it for you that helped you really fall in love with it? Maybe it was a saying, maybe it was a book, maybe it was a poem, maybe it was Len's Scots Word of the Day. Never can. So something I wanted to talk about was Ulster. There's this really interesting Ulster theme through the Scots Awards. There's a number of Ulster Scots writers and kind of producers and content producers that are in there. Did you ken much about Ulster Scots growing up?
I didn't really. I suppose it was sort of just a thing that was in the house. My dad's from Ballymena, so there's sort of always been a link there. But it was just, I didn't really sort of dissect what parts of Scots were coming from my mum and what parts were coming from my dad. So it's always been nice to sort of go back and find the links. And there's an Ulster Scots Word of the Day, contrast to my own that's on Twitter. So it's been nice to compare and contrast. And occasionally we'll do the same word and we'll just relentlessly bully each other about whose word that actually is. Because, there's always a sort of controversy there.
So when you started doing your Scots words, was your father... Was he totally into it? Did he get the whole cultural background to it?
Absolutely. I mean, my dad just uses Scots as much as anyone. I think that's just because my mum's been been using so much Scots. She's just blethering in the way she normally blethers at home, and my dad sort of picks it up and uses it the same way. And it's never been a sort of an issue, even though it wasn't really something that he would have maybe used. It's something that he uses now because it's, a sort of language by osmosis in our house.
Language by osmosis. That is interesting. I will just tell you quickly, right? So I didn't ken that Ulster Scots was much a living language. I didn't really ken much about it at all. It's just, there's a Scots language document for the Scottish Government, for example, that talks about we as Scotland are the only place in the world where Scots is spoken, therefore we have the obligation to look after it. So even at a governmental level, Ulster Scots maybe hasn't had the attention paid to it that was due. But this awards, there's not just one, there's 12 folk up for an award. One of them is Stephen Dornan, whose book, The Jabanes, is out now and is available and is there to be voted on. And I thought I'd just give you just a wee, because maybe you haven't heard Ulster Scots before. I'll butcher this, no doubt. So this is a poem cried The Gaelic, or The Gaelic. I bide in nooks the lee lang day, and rear my thrang o' wains awa fae comfort, heat and licht o' day, sprattling and clart where civilization holds nae sway nor polished art. You didn't think that I'm here about your sonsie fancy gear, and gin you see me sprattling near, it's battering broom or stamping shoon, I doubt in fear will seal my doom. So to me, that feels,
weird.
It's sort of, you ken what's going on there.
Aye, but it's like you're hearing it through different. It's like when you hear a specific dialect of Scots that you're not overly familiar with. You ken what's going on, but you don't know the specifics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that it's sometimes it's something like the spelling, or it's something like just the pronunciation of a word, which is quite similar but not the same. And I think it just speaks to the sort of diversity of the Scots language.
100%. Aye, it's like discovering Ulster Scots was sort of like discovering a whole new Doric. It's like, hold on, there's this whole other group of folks speaking sort of like us, but sort of nae quite, and they're no saying the same things we'd say.
Aye.
What I like most about the Ulster Scots contribution is that they're no talking about things we're talking about at all. They're living a whole different life in a whole another island, but they're using the same language as us. And by mixing with Scots, we can learn about whole new mentalities, whole new ways of life. There's some great comments coming in. We'll just touch upon. So Callum Irvine, good evening, Callum. Cheers for chucking your comment. So I'll read this, and you can gauge your thoughts on it. I've grown up with Scots all my life, but I was discouraged from speaking it myself since we moved down south of the border. Sorry to hear that, man. But my rekindling with it was reading A Drunk Man Looks at the Thistle. Have you engaged with much Hugh McDermott?
I have. I did it some of the last year when people were sort of sending me things to read, but I try not to read other people's stuff because then people tell me I'm butchering it. So I stick to my own so I can butcher that. But I can definitely relate to the sort of, try to smooth your own Scots kind of thing, because it's a thing that I think we all go through at some point.
Aye, Callum, 100%. That's one of the real difficulties. You talking about moving down south of the border. I mind when I flipped first to Aldreaky, moved down to Edinburgh, and I moved to the city centre, and Abdi was fairly middle class. And there's that thing of, I suppose what we need to get good at is being bilingual. Because you can't. I didn't ken what. Tell us in the comments what about your Biden down there. But you can't go down there and speak as braid as you might do if you bed in Hoyk. But keeping your Scots and keeping your English is the most important thing we hate to develop. Otherwise, Scots is in serious bother. So, what else we got here?
So Urwillie and the Broodens will definitely be the first real influence as a bairn. I see and written in Scots, but definitely connected by a young age. I'd absolutely agree with that, I think. And it's funny to me whenever people try and use the Broodens and Urwillie as a way to sort of stick to beat Scots speakers with, because they say, oh, you're speaking like the Broons, or you're speaking like Urwillie. Nah, they're speaking like us. That's the point. The point is it was an accurate reflection of the way that people spoke, and I think it was interesting seeing that in the papers when you'd read the Broons and Urwillie. My papa used to cut it out for me because it was the only place where you'd see Scots in a sort of print media in a sort of legitimised form. And it was comedic, and it was a cartoon, but it wasn't just for Waynes, it was for, people, because you could see your family reflected, and you could see, Pa and Ma, and that would be your family. Like, it was nice to see.
Oh, 100%. Aye, Gary, good on you getting the Dundee straight in there. But why would Scots be without Dundee, DC Thompson, Preston, Urwillie, didn't ken. What else have we got here? Found Len through TikTok. Fell in love with Scott as part of embracing my Scottishness as I enter middle age. That's for Purple Grant. Good on you. Purpy, I think, is the Scots for purple. Purpy Grant, I'll cry you. But good on you, man. 100% embracing your Scottish in your middle age. We come for this slightly looser time where you can see there's actually a good graphic available through Google data where you can see the amount of stuff published in Scots over the years. And there's this huge drop through the 50s, 60s and 70s. So if you're born or brought up in that era, you're going to have seen a lot less Scots than ourselves will have. What else have we got here? Andy McDowell came across this through Len's Word of the Day. Never thought it as a language till that point.
I like that. That's so.
Come on.
That feels good. That's nice, because it's part of what I'm doing is not just to sort of speak to Scots speakers, but people who might not have come across it before. Because certainly, growing up, there is sort of the cultural mindset even now that it's no language, and that it's no something that's legitimate, and that it's just a very niche thing, and it's not something that we should be doing or celebrating. But I think, through novels that we're getting, through poems that we're getting, through even stuff on the telly and things we're doing now, it's becoming a lot more legitimised, and we've seen that people are just feeling more comfortable to speak the way they've always spoken, but at the same time, people who might not have spoken it before are giving it a go, and I appreciate that and I respect that.
Aye, that's it. If it is a language, it's there to be learnt. Like, I'm not a native Gaelic speaker, but I studied at uni and I've really enjoyed learning for it. Now, of course, we're here this evening to chat about the Scots Language Awards. Tickets are available. It's the 25th of September at the Gardyne Theatre in Dundee. You can get the tickets at scotslanguageawards.com. It's on your screen just below us there. Who about that?
It's like QVC.
Aye, fantouche. So, it's no just tickets you can buy. This whole thing is driven by yourselves. If you care about Scots and you've engaged with some Scots over the last year, then make sure and get over to scotslanguageawards.com and vote. It's all done. The nominees are there. There's about 4 nominees, sometimes a wee bit more, for each of the about a dozen awards. So get in there and vote for the folk. They've helped you love the language, engaged you, encouraged you. Len's up for an award, so your man was Alan there that was giving you the praise. What are we? Aye, Andy McDowell. Andy McDowell, get yourself on there and give her a wee vote. She's more than deserving of it. So we're talking a wee bit about Ulster there. So the Jabanes is there. I hadn't seen Ulster Scots as a living language in my own life until I met a guy called Mark Thompson. He's up there for, I think, Media Person of the Year. I'll check that there now. But Mark Thompson, I'd encourage you. He makes stuff for BBC Northern Ireland, and he makes a programme called Hame. It's something we could really be doing with in Scotland. It's all about the culture, the language, the folk, the history, his pair in Northern Ireland, where they speak Scots as an everyday language. And it's absolutely smashing. Check it out. And I would say, I wasn't going to tell this, but we're amongst friends. I was on Tinder in the middle of lockdown, right? And I matched with this lassie, and I sent her a few messages, and I sent them in Scots, because, Ken, I was on Tinder in Dundee, and that's what you do. And she was replying in Scots, and it turned out she was fae, just somewhere near Ballymena. She was a braid Ulster Scots speaker who had flitted out to Scotland and loved the fact that she could speak Scots here. Did you go? We didn't go on a date. Nothing further happened. This story ends there.
I thought you were going to bring her out. Like, here she is.
And she's here tonight. My new wife. So it is. It's been quite exciting for me to, through your likes of Steve Donnan's work, through your likes of Mark Thompson's programmes, and through I think her name was Mary in the Carsagowrie, living Ulster Scots, that we hear this whole dialect maybe aren't appreciating. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's true of more than just Ulster. Maybe we should be bringing other dialects of Scots more to prominent, more to the fore.
Absolutely.
But let's have a look at some of the what do you call them, categories. So we have things like Scots Writer of the Year, sponsored by the National Library of Scotland. So there's incredible names up for this. One of the ones I've been engaging with is Victoria McNulty. She's been doing some incredible stuff. We were talking about the importance of online. Mm-hmm. She produced a collection of poems called Exiles, and she worked to produce an entire hour-long kind of live broadcast show, like a kind of a production, kind of getting that out into the world in the middle of lockdown. And it was just such an impressive use of Scots and such an impressive artistic achievement that gives you a sense of what's been coming out in Scots, the level we're getting with it. I thought we'd move on to chat about something we're really interested in, which is the category Scots Bairns Book of the Year. Because we were talking about how we got into Scots. Yeah. And kind of the thing that got us motivated. Neither of us had these growing up, did we?
No, not at all.
So I've got all these Bairns books kicking about the house, because that's about my reading level. And we've been having a look just before we got started, and we've got little readings. For them that grew up in the age where Scots Bairns books weren't that common, you'll maybe appreciate how cool these are. But for them out there that have got bairns, go out and get and buy these. Mm-hmm. Definitely, eh?
Absolutely.
So tell us about what you've got there.
So I've got Neeps and Tatties.
Neeps and Tatties.
By Kerry Manning and Anna York. And here is I'll try and get that in the camera. I'm going the wrong way because it's better. You can tell I'm professional.
Aye. So, lovely.
This is how it starts. It goes, "Listen, weans, and ye shall hear a tale away and a tale cheer. Just open your lugs as well as your hair, and when ye do, my tale can stare. Now there was a time, as I will tell, and I can hardly believe it mysel, when Neeps and Tatties, such friends a late, wouldna lie down upon the same plate."
Oh,
so cute.
Lovely. Now, Haggis, Neeps and Tatties. No, it's called Neeps and Tatties. Mm-hmm. And it's actually available for free. I was part of a wee campaign getting that out to loads and hundreds of schools around Scotland. So here, Google Neeps and Tatties, Scots Bairns Book, And I think if you work as a teacher or something like that, you can still get free copies sent out to your school. There's still a couple hundred copies knocking about, I think. But I think you can also just buy it, and it's a belter. If you got bairns, it's the story of Neeps and Tatties as a warring faction, and it is the pipe and haggis that brings them together and gets them out of their old enmity. Bonnie, I've got so that's part of the culture of New Scots writing for bairns. There's also a cracking culture, mostly driven, to be fair, by Itchycoo, the publishing house, oversetting into Scots existing classic bairns stories. So this unit is up for an award, Hans Christian Andersen's Fairy Tales in Scots. Now, the work in here is for all sorts of different oversetters. You've got Val McDermid, Sheena Blackhall, Tam Clark, Elaine C. Smith. Absolutely some of the real stars of the Scots language writing scene. I'll give you just the tottiest wee flavour. This is The Sweet Sang o' the Wood, the Nightingale, translated by Ashley Douglas. In the saft simmer dim, a nightingale sang on the branch of a tree. Sweet notes tumbled out the totty wee birdie, yin after another, in a sang fu' surprises. The tree was in a wild wood by the edge of the deep blue sea. Fishermen loused frae their work to listen to the birds sing. As they listened, their een smiled, and then they carried on with their work, mair blithe nor there had been afore. Now you tell me that a bairn that's listening to that, sat in their bed at night, just as you're putting them down for a kip, they're not going to be beguiled by that. It's such stunning work. So again, I insist, get yourself over to scotslanguageawards.com and vote for all these really deserving nominees. Let's take a look at some of the comments. Ross and Karina Wiseman.
Grew up in Inverness with Scots-speaking grandparents, so don't really speak it, but understand well enough. Living in Germany now, and the Scots word of the day is a great connection to home.
Oh, Ross and Karina Wiseman. Is that no lovely?
That is lovely. It's nice to see people who aren't currently biding in Scotland engaging with Scots. But also, I grew up with my grandparents speaking Scots and all. Like, as you're saying with those Wayne's books, all my bedtime stories were in Scots, but they weren't read for a book. It was just coming out of my nanny and papa. It was nice to sort of hear that connection to the older generation, and I think it's evident they knew that we do owe a lot to the older generation because they're really the gatekeepers of the language and they've got the knowledge, so we've got to sort of, continue to engage with them and make sure that we're bringing the old words into the future as a sort of matter of respect to them because they're the ones that have really kept it going.
100%. Cheers for tuning in for Germany. That's awfully exciting. John McKenzie, thank you both. I love learning. Thank you, John. We're very happy to have you along. Callum was doing it in the Midlands. Good stuff, man. That's not the worst doing there. I've got a pal doing in Leamington Spa. But he's been up in St Andy's for his uni. So you got to relearn the language for his gran in Dundee. And now Scots Irish Lit is my specialism. That is dead cool. Class. That is dead cool. And like you're saying, the older generation,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be speaking Scots now. I don't think it wasn't for my granny and granddad because they were just kind of monoglot Scots speakers that you couldn't actually shut my granddad up.
It's just a complete refusal to use anything other than Scots. You have to learn Scots to speak.
Sounds like God, I'm not pronouncing that. Big kelp, all right, kelpo. Sounds like there's a bit of Gaelic mixed in that Scots, but I think that there's hundreds of overlaps between Gaelic and Scots. Not as many as I'd maybe like. I mind reading in.
It would have been a lot easier. A lot easier to learn Gaelic if there was more overlap.
100%. Unfortunately, Robert McCall Miller's book, Scots in the North East, or whatever it's called, North East and Insular Scots, he talks about Scots unfortunately arrived as a colonial language in the North East and interacted with Gaelic from a colonial point of view. There are things like Bray, are connections there, which I do quite like, and there's a few to it. Fleur.
Screeve is my favourite. Yeah.
Screeve?
Aye.
And Fleur. In Gaelic it's just Fleur. Lovely. What else do we hear here? Julie Dools?
I'm in Aberdeen. Oh, you've scrolled past it.
I have.
I'm in Aberdeen, and as a writer, I throw in both Scots and Doric words into my stories because I just love the way they sound and it gives so much authenticity and colour to my character's speech. I completely agree. When you're reading a story about a Scottish person or a story set in Scotland and there's no Scots in it, it always freaks me out because I'm like, where's the Scots? That's why I really love Ian Rankin's books because he throws in some really, really good Scots and it just legitimises the characters and makes it feel like you actually ken them and that they're real people.
Yeah, the real people. You say authenticity, Jilly Doodles. Authenticity is the word. The real people, you're saying, Len. I got speaking to James Robertson. He is a scriver that's put out books like Joseph Knight and As the Land Lay Still, and he's put Itchy Coo. I think he said that you can't write Scottish characters using Scots. Even if no Aberdeen in Scotland's a Scots speaker, you'll hate grammatical inflections, face Scots. You'll hate an awareness. You'll use phrases that hey kind of archived Scots in the phrases. You can't write without it. So absolutely, Jilly, engaging with as a writer is essential, and good on you for it.
I find it so hard to write in English now.
Aye?
Absolutely. Even just like cutting out the sort of, as you say, the grammatical features and stuff. Try to write solely in pure English just really freaks me out, and I find it hard because then you have to sort of unlearn the Scots in your head to try and do it.
Aye, maybe we need some Creative Scotland funding to make sure English doesn't do it.
Oh, absolutely.
White Forest, I'm going to cry you. First exposure to Scots language was via train spotting. Aye, no, it was. It's a legitimate way in. Like Susie Briggs, hello. Susie's of course up for awards. She's up for awards every year. I think she's got plenty of class Bairns books out in Scots. So check out Susie Briggs if you haven't already. Hans J. Wentrit, I just like the sounding of your speaking. Hans J. Wentrit, I just like the sounding of your writing. It is good to hear you with us this evening. God, there's hundreds coming in. Cheers very much.
Hello, guys. Someone says they wonder how it would sound with a thick American accent.
Can you use an American accent?
Absolutely, I can. I think that people get hung up on that. They absolutely do. They think if they don't have a Scottish accent, they can't speak Scots. But the great thing about Scots speakers, and you'll know that if you live in Scotland, is you can hear Scots speakers for all ears and pairs. It's amazing. When I used to do Burns competitions, it was Waynes for England, it was Waynes who'd come over from France and Germany, and even places like, Syria and places that you might not think people would be Scots speakers, but these Waynes were standing up there, and it was when they were wee, afore you get the sort of cringe in you, afore you start to overthink things, and they were standing up there and they were giving just phenomenal readings in Burns. And aye, the accent wasn't Scottish, but that didn't make what they were speaking any less Scots, if that makes sense.
Didn't make what they're doing any less Scots, 100%. That's one of the hang-ups, actually, that folk with a mere English accent, but they grow up in a Scots-speaking area, feel they can't access it because they feel they're taking the piss out of the Scots.
They feel alienated, but the thing is, I've never felt when somebody's speaking Scots to me that they were, as you say, taking the piss. Like, genuinely. I've only ever felt respected. It's like when I go to Spain and I speak Spanish, my accent might not be flawless, but the waiter's going to think, wow, she's giving it a good go. You're going to feel like they're at least making an effort to speak to you in your own language. And I'd feel more emboldened and legitimised to start speaking Scots with somebody if I thought they would accept it well.
So I've had a question here that I'm dead interested to engage with because it talks about a couple of things that we've got coming up. So Jaffa, do you think Scots should be taught formally, brackets, to standard grade / higher level in school? So there's a couple of things on that. First of all, next Saturday, Hands Up for Trad are organising a wee gathering. That is an online meeting place, discussion place. They're going to, for Abdi that's interested in Scots. It's great for teachers, it's great for folk that work with Scots, it's great for folk that want to ken more about it. There's going to be presentations for Laura Green at the Scots Language Centre. She'll be running a Scots Language Book Bug session. And Shetland for Words, what are a kind of Shetland Scots dialect working group in Shetland, who have been doing hundreds of great things over the years, are also going to be talking about Scots. So if you can mark it a line, wee gathering, find out everything through the Hands Up for Trad pages. So your question, Jaffa, is about teaching. We'll hear our opinions about this, and we'll get to that in just a second. There's already teachers teaching it to as high a level as you currently can. As far as I can, and maybe I misunderstood this, you can do your Scottish Studies qualification as in a Scots language unit now. One of the persons that been delivering this for years in Mearns Academy is Rosie Bircham, who was up for an award this year. We heard just a wee clip over lockdown. She was keeping the Scots language stuff going with the kids in her class. So here's a video of what Rosie was doing. This is an extract of her reading Thrawn Janet to her class.
He mick maybe a stood there an hour, or maybe twa. He minded say little. when all of a sudden he heard a lay, uncanny steer upstairs, a foot gaed to and fro in the chamber where the corpse was hanging. Sign, the door was opened, though he minded weel that he had locked it, and sign, there was a step upon the landing, and it seemed to him as if the corpse was looking o'er the rail and doon from where he stood.
Sorry, you see their faces there, just reading through the comments. caught short. But aye, so Rosie Bircham up there in Men's Academy has been doing great work. Actually worked with her. We did tours of schools in Murray, doing great stuff with Scots. So fair play to her there and keeping it going online. Learn Scots, we are doing a Scots book bug. Watch it with weans, shove they grannies aff the bus. Quite right. So that is, of course, the Wee Gathering. Learn Scots is talking about that. The Wee Gathering is next Saturday and it's online. All the details through the Hands Up for Trad social media pages. Jaffa's question was about, should they be teaching Scots to higher level?
Mm-hmm. I think they should be teaching it to degree level, and they already are. I think it's a learnable, teachable language, and I think it's integral to Scottish culture, history, and the future. And I think the more we can legitimise it, and the more we can have actual, proper, legitimised, courses and degrees and things that people can engage with. Because one of my biggest questions for people all across the world is, I want to learn Scots. How do I do this formally? And I have to say that sometimes I'll be like, well, there's an open university course, you can obviously just be a casual learner. I point them to resources like the DSL, but for the most part, I have to just say to them, it's on you. Whereas I'd like to be able to say, here you go, sign up for this, because the demand is there. Aye. It's just a lack of sort of resources at the minute, and that will only come through sort of dedicated funding and also just organising, because the people are there and all, we just need to make sure that we're all working together.
100% agree with that. So I think teachers are doing, they're out at the coalface of this, and they can make the real difference. They're just creating attitudes and bairns being accepting of Scots, whether you're fae here or no. I mind some of the schools I taught in up in your, like, say, Bucky and stuff. It was often your Polish bairns that were the best at Scots because they'd already had to learn another language. Mm-hmm. So they're totally open to the whole idea of it. But then you also got the less well-behaved kids were often able to really come to the fore, because often BAMs are great Scots speakers. It's the case. And so they're able to become leaders, and you can really help behavioural problems by getting bairns speaking Scots in classrooms.
I know for me it was very much a case of, I've never been a good speller in English, but I've always been a great speller in Scots, because it's one, non-standardised, and two, it's phonetic. So I feel like a lot of Waynes experience that, where when they're given the opportunity to write the way they speak, they really fly off, because I couldn't do my work if it was just in English, because I'm really not that good at writing things, actually physically writing down in English, because I can't spell. It doesn't make sense in my head. But Scots makes perfect sense, because it's just the way it sounds to me.
Got some, honestly, there's great stuff coming in. I'm going to get you, where are you? Brian Alexander, tuning in for County Down and loving this. We need more of this, our side of the shook. Brian, mate, we're happy to have you here. Hopefully there is plenty of stuff at your side of the shoe. What I'm truly hoping for, my vision for the Scots future 2040, is to have a whole line of cultural venues. Ken, like we already did to some extent in Scotland, you've got the Scottish Storytelling Centre, you've got places in Dundee, up in Aberdeen, where Scots musicians and Scots performers and Scots poets can tour with their new releases, their new works. I'd love to see some air or in Ulster, something like the Linen Hall Library in Belfast, where that just becomes part of this crescent of touring spots for Shetland right the way around, where Scots writers, performers, etc. can tour right up. Northern Irish theatre companies can come and tour and all, and we can just share in a big Scots cultural conversation. Because use are part of this. Use are part of this, and we'd love you to be more part of it. So thanks very much for tuning in. Martin Beer, the Canadian contingent... Can you read that? I can't read that.
The Canadian contingent is very much Canadian accented until they say something they learnt for their maw.
Lovely. Book bug.
But you find that though, don't you, when you lapse into things that you've heard for your maw, it's the most confident that you get when you're speaking Scots. I definitely feel that whenever I'm raging and I start channeling my mum, that's it just comes straight out.
Exactly. So we've got Brainy Bairns. Good evening, Brainy. Hats off to both of you for all you've been doing. what do you think is the best way to help folk how do we speak in braid Scots and they slipping back to English? Is it a problem or not? Of course it is. Of course, 100%. Like,
it's code switching, isn't it?
Tell us about it.
So code switching is basically when you've got one or more leads in your head and you try and adapt to fit a situation. It's a kind of a survival tactic. If you're sitting in a university class where the discussion is obviously going to be Anglo-centric, you're not going to sit there speaking braid Scots. And you do find yourself when you're speaking Scots that you feel like an imposter. A lot of Scots speakers feel they've got imposter syndrome because they didn't always speak in Scots, and that's fine. And we need to legitimise the fact that it is a spectrum. It is a linguistic spectrum. There's a language continuum. Some people only hear a few Scots words in their vocabulary. Some people it's the majority of their language, and every point in between the 2 points is completely legitimate and valid. Mm-hmm. And you'll ken yourself whenever you're in a situation where you lapse into English or you go straight into Scots, you sit there and think, sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's no, and I always feel like you're doing the wrong thing. But that's just people, that's just what we do. We like to criticise ourselves.
A smashing insight. We're nearly out of time, unfortunately. I'm dead keen to hear yourselves tell us what got you into Scots, what helped you fall in love with it. No just, Ken, speaking it when you're doing the ScotMed. What got you into thinking, this is something I want to engage with? If you're here tonight, you must care a wee bit additionally than just, Ken, like a way of getting your messages in. There's Andy giving you another compliment. Oh, you got a fan. Isn't that nice? Good man. And so you tell me, just before we got started, that there's actually somebody, not quite a teacher, but somebody that's taken on a kind of teaching role in your younger years that got you to where you are today.
So it was a retired English teacher called Nancy who got me into doing Scots because there was a wee poster put up saying, do people want to learn about Burns? And obviously every, sane child with pals didn't say aye, but I said aye because I had no pals. So I went round her house, and every Wednesday from when I was 8 to when I was 18 and I was too old to compete, I just I rehearsed a new poem and then I'd compete all across Scotland. I won a few, but I lost a few of them. No, it was awful. I used to go home and greet to my mum. She'd be like, "It's political. They just can't give you them all." And I was like, "Oh yeah, mum, of course," just sitting greeting. But no, it was a perfect insight into Scots because it really did legitimise it as something that wasn't just the way I spoke at home. It was literature. It was Burns, it was all kinds of things. It was even William Souter and things like that. And you'd go and you'd see, you started off just wanting to win, that was it. But then as I got older, I was able to sit back and reflect and see the ways that were doing it. For 4-year-olds, some of them standing up there giving it a go. And it was heartwarming to me because it made me feel like the future of Scots was safe because, these Waynes weren't just doing it for the prize. They were doing it because they had a vested interest in learning about Scottish culture. And as I say, it wasn't all Scottish bairns. It wasn't all Waynes that were had been born and brought up in Scots and with Scots in the house. It was Waynes who had just seen it as something that was this amazing, legitimate language, and they wanted to engage with it. And for me, there was nothing better than just seeing Waynes being Waynes through Scots. It was great. I loved it.
Gosh, she's eloquent as you know. Absolutely. Gets me fired up about Scots. Absolutely incredible. So guys, I will implore you, get yourselves over to scotslanguageawards.com. Not go through the nominations, vote for them that have made your world that bit more Scots, helped you engage more with your language, with your own culture. Maybe you're new, maybe you flitted into Scotland and somebody on that lead has helped you engage with your new culture. Get in there and give them the respect they deserve with a wee vote. What's more, there's some smashing little sort of micro articles. If you click on Abdi's names in the nominees, most of them will take you through to an interview, a Q&A they've done. I'd really recommend you to the teachers in particular. They're smashing. They've got such good stories and they're doing such good work. And there's amazing projects in there and all. But Abdi that's on there really deserves to be on there. So whatever you give your vote to, they'll absolutely deserve it. Because most of them they're not working for loads of money. Like, you haven't come to my flat in Beverly Hills tonight.
No.
Or even Broughty Ferry. It's just... so most folk that are working are doing it out of love and they're making a huge cultural contribution. So they deserve at least a wee minute of time to go and vote. But please, 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 Len was saying she didn't have any pals growing up. Come and keep her company. 25th of September, Gardyne Theatre, Dundee. Get your tickets at scotslanguageawards.com. £9.50 to £11.50. Can I say fairer than that? And we'll say thanks to Martin, thanks to Susie Briggs, thanks to Esther Robertson, cheers to Begani Robertson, cheers to Laura Jandu. Cheers to you all for joining us this evening. Thanks, Simon, in the background for pressing all the buttons and getting all our content queued up. And I'll see you next week for another Blether Wi Heather, and we'll see you at the Gardyne Theatre on the 25th of September. Say farewell.
All right, see you later.
See you later.